The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Chandima Veerakon. Headlines. Those who could not get the second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine is expected to get the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine. The country will get 78,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines next month. Another judge recuses himself from hearing the fundamental rights petitions filed by MP Rishad Badiuddin and his brother. Veteran dancer Kulasiri Budawatta passes away. In news overseas, world powers meet in Berlin to discuss Libya crisis. In sports, spectator guidelines unveiled for Tokyo Games. Local stories in detail. Health Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi says that the committee recommendation will be obtained within the next 2 weeks for those who could not get the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine to get the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Recommendations of Health Experts Council and Infectious Disease Council are needed in this regard. The relevant tests are at the final stages. Positive results have been received by using the Pfizer vaccine in that manner. The Health Minister mentioned this as a reply to a question raised in Parliament today by opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. 6 orders, including the supplementary estimate to get 200 billion rupees and 2 regulations under Import and Exports Act, were passed in Parliament today. State Minister Ajit Niwad Cabral said that the economy of the country is properly managed, although there is a global crisis. He said that the government is not prepared to move the country towards a crisis to get the GSP Plus facility. State Minister Shahan Semasinga said that those who are against local economic thinking created unnecessary problems during all eras. MP Niroshan Perera said that people are facing problems due to fuel price increase and the fire at the Express Pearl ship. The government says 78,000 doses of Pfizer vaccine will be received by the country next month. State Minister Professor Channa Jayasamana said that the country is expected to get the vaccine within the first 3 weeks of next month. He said that 26,000 doses will be brought down weekly for 3 weeks. State Pharmaceuticals Corporation has purchased the stock of vaccines. It is the first consignment of vaccines that will be brought down to the country. Another judge has recused himself from hearing the fundamental rights petitions filed by MP Rishad Badiuddin and his brother Riyaj Badiuddin, challenging their arrest and detention over the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attacks. The fundamental rights petitions were taken up before the 3-member judge bench consisting of Supreme Court Justices Preeti Padman Surasena, AHMD Nawaz and Achala Vengapulli today. However, Judge Janak De Silva, citing a personal reason, recused himself from the petition hearing. This is the 3rd judge to recuse himself from hearing. Veteran dancer Kulasiri Budawatta has passed away. He was ailing for some time and was 71 years of age at the time of his demise. He had an in-depth knowledge about both Kandyan and Low Country dance traditions. His Budawatta Dance Theatre produced a large number of dancers well known both locally and abroad. The Ministry of Education has decided to recruit 18,000 graduate trainees as teachers. The ministry said that they will be attached to schools in rural areas. The epidemiology unit says that 1,890 corona patients have fully recovered and left hospitals and treatment centres. 211,186 have recovered from the virus so far. 243,913 patients have been reported so far from the country. 71 deaths have been reported during the last 24 hours. 31,985 are undergoing medical treatment. 2,487,297 have been given the first dose of the corona vaccines. 857,868 have been given the second dose of the vaccine. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Get your EPF loan information and service details via SMS from HDFC Bank.
Continuing with the local stories, the newly constructed Navy sporting facility, Commander Parakrama Samaravira Memorial Indoor Sports Complex, was declared open today. It was declared open by Commander of the Navy and President Navy Sports Board, Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulugetanna, with the attendance of wife of late Commander Parakrama Samaravira, Mrs. Sudarshani Samaravira, at Valisara Naval Complex. Late Commander Parakrama Samaravira made the supreme sacrifice for the motherland on 19th July 1996 in a decisive sea battle against the LTTE of Mullaitivu. For his individual act of gallantry and bravery in the face of the enemy, the officer was awarded the Veera Vikrama Vibhushanaya. In 1989-1990, he captained the Navy Sri Lanka rugby team and won Sri Lanka Navy colours for rugby. The Ministry of Justice says that anyone can give information to the 5 committees appointed to assess the damage caused by the Express Pearl ship. The committees have been appointed to assess and report on the damages to environment, fishing and economy. Organizations and institutions which are interested about the matter can provide information to the committees. To end the local news, the headlines again. Those who could not get the second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine is expected to get the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine. The country will get 78,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines next month. Another judge recuses himself from hearing the fundamental rights petition filed by MP Rishat Badiuddin and his brother. Veteran dancer Kulasiri Buddhavatta passes away. That ends the local news.
NAB. Get your EPF loan information and service details via SMS from HDFC Bank. Wherever you are, being a state and private sector employee, to obtain EPF loan information and service details, just send a SMS mentioning EPF space name and region to 0718 800 999. HDFC Bank, the bank for your home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On the main news story, in response to the serious oil and hazardous chemical spills triggered by the fire that broke out on a ship carrying hazardous substances in May, the European Union is directing €200,000 in humanitarian funding to provide crucial assistance. The aid will benefit 15,000 people who have been heavily affected by the disaster in the districts of Colombo, Gaul, Gampaha, Kalutara, Puttalam and Matara. This EU funding supports the Sri Lanka Red Cross Society in delivering emergency relief assistance to those most affected, especially small-scale fishing communities, through the delivery of cash assistance. This will help meet the immediate needs of those whose day-to-day livelihoods have been impacted by the fishing ban implemented following the incident. The aid will also focus on supporting local authorities to clean hazardous and toxic materials along the country's west coast. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. Applications have been called for the open competitive examination to recruit graduates to Sri Lanka Teacher Service to teach foreign languages at national schools. The Ministry of Education has announced that applications can be submitted until the 13th of August. The applicants can submit their applications online by logging into the official website of the Department of Examinations. That ends Watchlight. We move on to the world news, the headlines. World powers meet in Berlin to discuss Libya crisis. China condemns US as warship transits Taiwan Strait again. The EU citizens are given 28-day deadline to apply to stay in UK. World powers are meeting in Berlin today to seek lasting peace in Libya by ensuring the conflict-racked North African country stays firmly on the path towards general elections on December 24th. Representatives of Libya's interim government will join U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, as well as the foreign ministers of France and Egypt at the United Nations-sponsored talks. The efforts to end a decade-long spiral of violence in Libya would be the second round in Berlin. China has called the United States the region's greatest creator of risks after a U.S. warship again sailed through the Taiwan Strait, the narrow waterway that separates mainland China from the self-ruled island of Taiwan. The U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet said its Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer USS Curtis Wilbur on Tuesday conducted a routine transit through the Taiwan Strait. In a statement, the 7th Fleet said the ship's transit through the Taiwan Strait demonstrates the U.S. commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. The government says immigration enforcement officials will be giving EU citizens who live in the UK a 28-day warning to apply to remain. But the Home Office will allow people indefinite time to complete an application for settled status if they have a reasonable excuse for delay. There is a week to go until the deadline for applications. To end the world news, the headlines again. World powers meet in Berlin to discuss Libya crisis. China condemns US as warship transits Taiwan Strait again. The EU citizens are given 28-day deadline to apply to stay in UK. That ends the world news. And on development news, 3,000 houses will be built soon for middle-income earners according to Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor National Policy Statement. The project is implemented on the instructions of the Prime Minister to meet the housing needs of the middle-income earners, even amid the COVID pandemic. The project will be implemented at Orgodabatta, Blumandel, Palyagoda, Kottava, Burlesgamua, Malabe and Kandy. That ends development news. On to sports news. The Sri Lanka Cricket said inaugural edition of the Lanka Premier League reached a cumulative audience of 557 million people through TV, digital social space and traditional media outlets. The matches, which were telecast live by television channels in Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, UK, US, Canada, Ireland and New Zealand, saw 155 million people tuning in to catch live action. On social media, it has achieved 218 million reach. Print, electronic and online media have taken its daily coverage to 184 million readers across the globe. The organizers of the Tokyo Games unveiled spectator guidelines today in a bid to prevent coronavirus infections during the Olympic Games. The guidelines are aimed at restricting the activities of spectators at venues. The move is in line with the organizers' decision to reduce spectator capacity at Olympic venues. Chinese swimming star Sun Yang has been banned from competition for 4 years and 3 months over doping violations. The Court of Arbitration for Sport, or CAS, made the verdict virtually ending his chance to compete in the Tokyo Olympics. That ends sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
Ceylon Salt, which is the only producer of Artemia-cyst fish food in Sri Lanka, will be reinvesting heavily to increase their production. Ceylon Salt Company Hambantota chairman Nishanta Sandabarana said that there is also a growing huge market for Artemia globally as well, and they hope to enter this market and for the first time bring in dollars to the Ceylon Salt coffers. That ends Business News.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
On economic news, headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the National Consumer Price Index increased to 6.1% in May 2021 from 5.5% in April 2021. This was mainly driven by the monthly increases in prices of items in both food and non-food categories. Food inflation increased to 10.3% in May 2021 from 9.7% in April 2021. Non-food inflation increased to 2.5% in May 2021 from 2.2% in April 2021. That ends economic news.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue in partnership with the Ministry of Education introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally on the weather report, the Met Department says that showers or thundershowers will occur at times in western, central, Sabragamur and southern provinces. Showers or thundershowers will occur in eastern and Uva provinces and in Mullaitivu and Vaunia districts in the evening or at night. Several spells of showers will occur in northwestern province. Fairly heavy falls, about 50 millimeters, can be expected at some places in western and Sabragamur provinces and in Gaul and Matra districts. That ends the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue in partnership with the Ministry of Education introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And to end this bulletin of news, the headlines again. Those who could not get the second dose of AstraZeneca vaccine is expected to get the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine. The country will get 78,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines next month. Another judge recuses himself from hearing the fundamental rights petitions filed by MP Rishad Patidin and his brother. Veteran dancer Kulasiri Buddhavatta passes away. In news overseas, world powers meet in Berlin to discuss Libya crisis. In sports, spectator guidelines unveiled for Tokyo Games. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.